Hello everyone, we're group 2 and my name is Jem, this is Meow and this is Nick. Alright, and today we're going to present, we're going to do this presentation by analyzing by regions and by individual countries that have some obstacles faced by firms, including corruption, taxes and regulations, access to finance, crime, trade, as well as intellectual capital. The purpose of this project is to analyze individual countries that we have. As you can see right here, we have about 16 countries, and we're going to determine similarities and differences between these countries that by standard economic measures are failures or successes. And this section of the project will be explaining country profiles in terms of corruption, tax and regulations, infrastructure, workforce, and crime. And after that section, we're going to provide success and failures column, country by country. Then we're going to conclude this presentation. Right now, Nick is going to talk about country profiles.
Okay, Spain. Much like the United States, Spain got hit by a major economic depression caused by the housing market crash in mid-2008. This has caused a soar in unemployment in the country. According to a tape, the population of adults 25 and younger is experiencing the worst of the unemployment crisis. Unemployment of adults 25 and younger has risen to just over 50%. Since these young adults aren't able to find unemployment in Spain, they are forced to leave the country to find employment. In doing so, the country is losing out on all this intellectual capital that these recent graduates and young adults could contribute to the country. Sweden. Sweden is one of the few European Union countries that haven't switched to using the euro. Despite the global economic crisis, Sweden has been able to stay productive and been able to prosper through these hard times. This is because Sweden relies heavily on its exports and has a large trade surplus. Sweden pretty much has an open door policy for international trading. Because of this, Sweden hasn't had to cut spending and raise taxes like many of their counterparts who have had to cut much of their spending because of their large trade deficits. Switzerland. Switzerland is located in Central Europe. This helps the country prosper because their location makes it one of the world's most important financial centers. Switzerland is another country that hasn't converted their currency to the euro as well. This has also allowed Switzerland to become a central location for banking and much international trade. The Swiss banks have benefited much because of the country's banking secrecy laws, which lead many wealthy foreigners to hide their money in these banks and stay away from their taxes in their home country. Portugal. When the global economic crisis hit Europe, Portugal's budget deficit fell to almost $24 billion, which is about 10% of the country's GDP. In the next few years, Portugal cut its budget deficit to almost in half to about 5% of its GDP. Exports are a huge part of Portugal's economy, contributing to a major portion of the economic growth of the country. The location of Portugal makes the country a prime position for international trade. San Marino. San Marino's chief contributor to its income is tourism. About 2 million people are drawn to the state annually. The government relies on taxes and customs to provide revenue from the tourism to the country. Manufacturing and financial sectors contribute to more than half of the GDP of the country. Like Switzerland, San Marino as well has low tax rates for foreign investments, which bring much revenue to the country as well. Now Sam's going to talk to you about his countries.
Next country that we have is Turkey. And Turkey's largely free market economy is increasingly driven by its industry and service sectors. And although its traditional agriculture sector still accounts for about 25% of employment. For decades, Turkey's economy grew faster than ever. Its growth has been phenomenal, with GDP rising from a mere $68 billion in 1980 to an astonishing $1.167 trillion in 2013. Turkey's democracy and media are in crisis right now, and millions of people protested the current government under Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan and criticized the government over corruption. The biggest issue is the government's pressure on the media over the last decade. According to the Corruption Perception Index 2013, the country received 50 points and placed in 53rd place out of 177 countries. The next country is United Kingdom. It's a leading trading power and financial center in Europe. After the Euro debt crisis, the country raised the tax rates from 17.5% to 20% in 2011, and country's GDP is about $3.378 trillion, which grew 1.4% in 2013. The next country is Albania. In the early 1990s, Albania ended 47 years of nationalistic communist rule and established a multi-party democracy. The transition has proven challenging as successive governments have tried to deal with high unemployment, widespread corruption, and powerful organized crime networks, and argumentative political opponents. The next country is Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia has a transnational economy with limited market reforms. Economy relies on exports of metal, energy, textiles, furniture, and foreign aid. When it comes to corruption, the country's corruption rank as the 6th most significant obstacle to doing business in the country after high taxes, complicated tax laws, and political instability. The next one is Bulgaria. The country entered the European Union in 2008 and averaged more than 6% annual growth from 2004 to 2008, driven by a significant amounts of bank lendings, consumption, and foreign direct investment. The country's GDP reduced by 5.5% as a result of Euro crisis in 2009 and has been slow to recover in the years since. The next one is Croatia. Its economy started improving between 2000 and 2008. However, the country's economy fortunes began to improve with moderate but steady GDP growth between 4% and 6%, left by a rebound in tourism and credit-driven consumer spendings. Yao is going to talk about the other countries right now.
First country is the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic is a stable and prosperous economy closely integrated with the EU, especially since the economic EU assisted in 2004. Czech Republic GDP is 285.6 million in 2013, and country comparison to the world is number 45. The next country is Kosovo. Kosovo's economy is a market-based system. And maintain macroeconomic stability, but it is still highly dependent on the international community and the disposal for financial and technological assistance. Next country is Macedonia. The government has been losing the financial policy. However, under the budget deficit expanded to 4.2% of GDP in 2013. Macedonia achieved the most GDP growth in 2013 after a small correction in 2012. infection is under control in Macedonia. Next country is New Zealand. New Zealand over the past 20 years government has transformed New Zealand from an augmented economic dependent on consistory British market access to a more industrialist free market economy that can compete globally. The economy fell into recession before the start of the global financial crisis and contracted for 5 consecutive quarters in 2008 to 2009. My last country is Papua New Guinea. The economy has a small formal sector focused mainly on the export of those natural resources, and an informal sector employing the majority of population. Last part is the conclusion. Nick will talk about conclusion.
Okay. Multinational corporations face many challenges when moving to foreign countries. When choosing a country to expand your business, the company needs to consider economic advantages and disadvantages of each country. When expanding into a country, a company needs to consider how corrupt a country is, what direction a country's GDP is growing, taxes imposed in foreign subsidiaries, how much access a company has to the country's finances, the education level of the population, and the advantages each country has with its trade policies. According to the table, we conclude that Spain, Portugal, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Kosovo are in failure column, since these countries are not in good situation in terms of bad economy. In good situation with bad economy, high level of corporate tax rates, corruption, policy uncertainty, and access to finance. These countries have potential to move into the success column because they need to fix the problems that they have. On the other hand, we determined that Sweden, Switzerland, San Marino, Turkey, Great Britain, Czech Republic, Macedonia, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea are in the success columns, since some of these countries have strong policy and regulations. And other countries are trying to establish new regulations, balanced the tax rates, reduce the crime rate, and fix the infrastructure in order for local and international firms to make business and trade internationally without having a hard time with regulations. And thank you so much. Again, my name's Nick. This is Meow.
And I'm Jam. Thank you for listening.
Yep.